Let me ask you a question that might shake you a little. What if everything you're chasing right now, success, money, love, confidence, peace of mind, what if it's not missing from your life but blocked by the way you're using your mind? Because here's the truth. It took me over 50 years of pain, failure, obsession, study, breakdowns, breakthroughs, and relentless hunger to realize this. Life doesn't change when you want it to. It changes the moment your standards change. Most people don't fail because they're not smart enough. They fail because they settle. They negotiate with their fears. They make excuses sound logical. And then they call that reality. In the next 69 minutes, I'm not here to motivate you. I'm here to wake you up. Because once you see what took me 50 plus years to understand, you'll never tolerate the same limitations. Again, let me tell you something that took me decades to fully grasp. Your life today is a perfect reflection of the standards you've accepted, not the dreams you talk about. Everybody has goals. Everybody wants more money, better health, deeper relationships, more confidence. But wanting is cheap. Desire is easy. What actually shapes your destiny is what you refuse to tolerate. If you tolerate disrespect, you'll live in it. If you tolerate poor health, your body will obey. If you tolerate mediocrity, your potential will suffocate quietly while you stay busy blaming circumstances. Most people think setting goals will change their life. Goals are important, but standards are non-negotiable. A goal is something you hope to achieve someday. A standard is something you live by every day. When your standards rise, your behavior rises automatically. You don't need motivation. You don't need willpower. You become a different person because you demand more from yourself than you ever did before. Here's the brutal truth. People don't usually change when they see the light. They change when they feel the heat. When the pain of staying the same becomes greater than the pain of change. That's why so many people stay stuck for years. They complain, they analyze, they pray, they wait, but they don't decide. And decision is the ultimate power. The moment you decide, everything shifts. I've met people who stayed in toxic relationships for 20 years, not because they couldn't leave, but because they normalized emotional pain. I've seen people stay broke for decades, not because opportunities weren't available, but because struggle became familiar. Familiar pain feels safer than unfamiliar growth. And until your standards change, your results won't. Raising your standards means saying, this ends now, not tomorrow, not when conditions are perfect. Now, it's the moment you say, I don't care how hard it is, I don't care how uncomfortable it feels, I will not live like this anymore. That decision rewires your nervous system. Your body, your mind, your actions begin to align with the new identity you're stepping into. Think about it. If your standard is excellence, you don't negotiate with laziness. If your standard is honesty, you don't rationalize lies. If your standard is peak energy, you don't tolerate habits that poison your body. Standards eliminate inner conflict. They simplify life. They create momentum. Most people lower their standards to avoid disappointment, but that's the trap. Lower standards don't protect you from pain, they guarantee regret. Because deep down, you always know what you are capable of. And that silent knowing becomes the heaviest burden of all. The moment you raise your standards, you'll feel resistance. Your old identity will fight back. Your environment may resist you. People around you may feel uncomfortable. That's not a sign you're wrong. That's proof you're evolving. Growth always demands separation from the old version of yourself. I didn't change my life when I learned new strategies. I changed it when I decided what I would no longer tolerate physically, emotionally, financially, spiritually. And once that line was drawn, everything else had to rise to meet it. So here's the real question, not what do you want, but what will you no longer accept? Because the day you answer that honestly is the day your life stops drifting and starts commanding. Let me tell you, something that controls your life far more than logic, education, or intelligence, and most people never even realize it. Every single decision you make is driven by one thing. Your brain is constantly trying to move you away from pain and toward pleasure. That's it. Strip away the stories, the excuses, the justifications, and this is the core driver of human behavior. You don't eat what you eat because of nutrition. You eat what you eat because of how it makes you feel. You don't stay in a job because it's logical you stay, because leaving feels more painful than staying. You don't avoid change because you're lazy. You avoid it because your nervous system associates change with uncertainty, and uncertainty feels like danger. Here's the uncomfortable truth. People will endure incredible pain just to avoid short-term discomfort. They'll tolerate emotional suffering for years because the pain is familiar. The brain prefers familiar pain over unfamiliar pleasure. That's why someone stays in a toxic relationship, not because they enjoy suffering, but because the pain of loneliness feels worse than the pain of being mistreated. The association is already wired. Your brain is a meaning-making machine. Whatever it links pain to, you will avoid. Whatever it links pleasure to, you will pursue. And these links are not logical, they're emotional. They're conditioned through experiences, repetition, and emotional intensity. That's why two people can face the same situation and react completely differently. One sees opportunity, the other sees threat. Different conditioning, same reality. Thank you. Most people are running patterns installed years ago, sometimes in childhood. They learned that speaking up led to rejection, so silence became safe. They learned that failing brought shame, so playing small felt protective. Over time, the brain says, I know how to keep you alive, and it locked you into habits that once served you but now sabotage you. And here, that's the breakthrough that took me decades to master. Lasting change happens when you deliberately rewire what you associate pain and pleasure with. If you keep associating comfort with pleasure, you'll never grow. If you keep associating discipline with pain, you'll always sabotage success. You don't need more motivation, you need new associations. When someone finally changes, it's not because they learned something new. It's because the pain of staying the same finally outweighed the pain of change. The moment your brain links massive pain to your current behavior, you will change instantly. No procrastination. No excuses. That's why people quit smoking after a health scare. That's why people transform after hitting rock bottom. Pain became immediate and unavoidable. But here's the power most people never use. You don't have to wait for life to break you, recondition your brain. You can consciously decide what pain and pleasure mean. You can link pain to procrastination, pain to excuses, pain to settling. And you can link pleasure to growth, discipline, truth, courage, and action. Think about it. If you genuinely felt pain every time you lied to yourself, you'd stop. If you felt deep pleasure after doing the hard thing, you'd crave it. High performers aren't stronger than you. They're conditioned differently. Their nervous systems have been trained to find pleasure in progress and pain in stagnation. Your emotions are not happening to you. They're signals shaped by conditioning. And once you understand that, you regain control. You stop asking, why am I like this? And start asking, what have I trained my brain to associate pain and pleasure with? The moment you change those associations, behavior changes effortlessly, not through force, but through alignment. Your identity shifts. Your standards rise. Your actions follow. So if you want to change your life, don't start with willpower, start with conditioning. Decide today what hurts and what excites you, because whatever you wire into your nervous system will quietly, relentlessly shape your destiny. Let me tell you the real reason most people never outgrow their circumstances, and it has nothing to do with money, opportunity, or talent. It has everything to do with identity. Your identity is the invisible force that dictates what you believe you deserve, what you expect from yourself, and what you'll fight for when things get hard. And no matter what strategies you learn, you will always act in alignment with who you believe you are. People try to change their behavior without changing their identity, and that's why the G never lasts. You can force yourself to work harder for a week, eat better for a month, or think positively for a while, but sooner or later you'll snap back to the level of identity you've accepted. Your identity is the thermostat. Behavior is just the temperature adjusting around it. If you see yourself as someone who struggles, you'll unconsciously create struggle even when opportunity shows up. If you see yourself as not confident, you'll find reasons to stay quiet, even when you have something powerful to say. And the most dangerous identities are the ones people never question because they sound reasonable. That's just how I am. I'm not that type of person. People like me don't do things like that. Those sentences quietly destroy futures. Here's what took me years to understand. Identity is not who you are. It's who you've practiced being. Every time you repeat a behavior, you cast a vote for the type of person you believe you are. Every excuse reinforces an old story. Every avoided challenge strengthens a false limit. And over time, that story hardens into certainty. But identity can be upgraded instantly if you're willing to make a new decision and back it with action. The fastest way to change how you see yourself is to do something that contradicts your old identity with emotional intensity. That's why small thinking creates small lives. You need experiences that force your nervous system to say, I guess I'm not who I thought I was. Most people live why. An identity handed to them by parents, culture, past failures, or society. Someone told them who they were, and they accepted it without questioning the source. But identity should be chosen, not inherited. You decide who you are by what you consistently do, especially when it's uncomfortable. The moment you say, I'm the kind of person who keeps promises to myself, everything changes. When you say, I'm someone who finds a way, obstacles lose power. When you adopt the identity of a leader, you stop waiting for permission. Identity simplifies decision-making. You don't argue with yourself, you act in alignment. And here's the key most people miss. Your identity doesn't rise to your goals fall to your identity. If your identity says, I'm average, your goals will quietly shrink. If your identity says, I grow under pressure, your standards rise automatically. That's why lasting transformation feels like becoming someone new, not doing something new. You don't need confidence to act. Action creates confidence. You don't need clarity to begin. Movement creates clarity. Identity is built through motion, not meditation alone. The brain updates its self-image based on evidence, not intention. Every breakthrough you admire and others started with an identity shift they refused to negotiate on. They decided who they were, and then they behaved in ways that made that decision unavoidable. So the question isn't, what do I want? The question is, who must I become to create it? Because the moment you change that answer, your ceiling disappears. Most people think intelligence, talent, or even effort determines success, but that's a half-truth. The real game changer, the secret that separates those who dominate their lives from those who drift, is emotional mastery. How will you manage your emotions? How quickly you recover from setbacks? How deeply you control your internal state? This is the foundation of everything. If you can't manage yourself emotionally, no amount of strategy or skill will make a difference. You'll get stuck in fear, procrastination, or indecision, and life will quietly slip through your hands. Emotions are not just feelings, they are signals, and they drive behavior more powerfully than thought alone. Fear, doubt, anger, even excitement, these states dictate the choices you make before your rational mind has a chance to weigh in. You might believe you are thinking logically, but your decisions are colored by the emotional lens through which you experience life. That's why two people can face the exact same opportunity and respond completely differently. One will leap, one will freeze, one will persevere. One will quit. Emotional mastery is the ability to take control of that lens. Now, emotional mastery doesn't mean ignoring your feelings. It means understanding them, decoding them, and choosing which ones to amplify. Most people live as slaves to their moods, reacting unconscious. Lie to whatever hits them. A text message, a comment, a delayed email, traffic, a critical remark, all of these things hijack their nervous system, trigger the old fight or flight response, and derail performance. Mastery is about reclaiming that power. It's about being the driver of your own emotional state, not the passenger. Here's the key. Your emotional state is neither fixed nor random. It can be consciously changed in moments, hundreds of times a day. The difference between someone who succeeds and someone who fails is rarely strategy, it's state management. When you're in a state of confidence, focus, and excitement, your mind automatically notices solutions, sees opportunities, and acts decisively. When you're anxious, frustrated, or resentful, the same reality looks like chaos and you feel paralyzed. Your results aren't determined by your circumstances, they are determined by your emotional mastery. People resist emotional mastery because they think it's manipulation or inauthenticity, but it's the opposite. It's authenticity with control. It's choosing who you are in any moment instead of letting external forces choose for you. It's not suppressing anger, it's transforming it into motivation. It's not denying fear, it's converting it into action. Every champion, every leader, every visionary I've studied has one thing in common: they've learned to harness emotion instead of being harnessed by it. Emotional mastery also builds resilience. Life will hit you. It will knock you down. It will betray your expectations. And if you haven't trained your emotional system, those hits will break you. But if you've learned to manage your inner state, every obstacle becomes a training ground. Pain becomes information. Disappointment becomes fuel. Setbacks become signals to adjust, adapt, and accelerate. That's why emotional mastery is not a soft skill. It is the hard foundation of power and influence, the most powerful. People in the world are not the smartest or most talented. They are the ones who refuse to be moved by chaos. They create emotional momentum that drives them forward. They don't wait for external validation or circumstances to feel good. They generate their own energy, their own courage, their own certainty. And because of that, the world bends to their influence naturally. Emotional mastery gives you leverage. It amplifies everything else: your decisions, your relationships, your productivity, your impact. Here is what most people don't realize: you can practice emotional mastery every single day, and it compounds. Each time you choose how to feel in response to life instead of reacting, automatically you strengthen the muscle of your mind and nervous system. And over time, those micro choices turn into an identity: someone who can be shaken, someone who commands their life, someone who attracts opportunities rather than chases them. So if you want to create extraordinary results, don't start with strategy or tactics. Start with your emotional state. Decide consciously who you will be in any moment. Train yourself to move from fear to confidence, from anxiety to clarity, from frustration to focus. Because intelligence without emotional mastery is wasted potential. And emotional mastery without action is just theory. But combine them, and nothing can stop you. Massive action is one of the most misunderstood concepts in personal development. People think taking action is simply doing more, hustling harder, or filling their calendar with tasks. But that's not what I'm talking about. Massive action without clarity or meaning is busy work. It's activity that produces stress, not results. The secret is that action must be fueled by purpose and guided by strategy. Otherwise, you're just running in circles. True transformation comes when every move you make is intentional, aligned with your values, and built on emotional commitment. Most people fail because they think they can wait for motivation to arrive before acting. They wait for the perfect time, the right feeling, or a clear signal from the universe. Let me tell you something, the perfect moment doesn't exist. Life rewards those who act decisively, even when they feel fear. Action creates momentum, and momentum creates clarity. You don't need to know the entire path before taking the first step. You just need to move. Every step forward produces data, feedback, and energy that guides the next step. That's how results compound. But here's the catch, action USTB massive. Incremental, half-hearted effort rarely changes anything. The world doesn't notice small attempts. Change doesn't respect hesitation. It responds to intensity. Massive action is about commitment so strong that it bends reality to match it. It's about deciding you won't quit until you get what you want, and then doing everything in your power to create it. This is not just a philosophy, it's a practical approach to life. Think about it, every high achiever you admire. They didn't achieve results by planning endlessly or hoping for inspiration. They took massive, relentless, intelligent action day after day. Meaning is what makes massive action sustainable. Without it, action becomes torture. When you understand why you're doing something, your brain aligns with the effort. Challenges feel smaller. Obstacles feel like signals. Pain feels like fuel. The difference between someone who fails and someone who succeeds is often the intensity of meaning they attach to their mission. When your purpose is powerful enough, you find reserves of energy, creativity, and persistence you didn't know existed. Action stops being a chore, it becomes a calling. Most people sabotage themselves by spreading their energy too thin. They act, but in too many directions. They chase every opportunity without alignment. Massive action is not just quantity, it's strategic focus. It's concentrating your energy on the things that actually move the needle. It's doing fewer things better, with more intensity, more speed, and more commitment than anyone else is willing to muster. That's what separates the winners from the spectators. And here's the critical insight. Action without emotional intensity rarely sticks. You can create plans, write lists, and set goals, but if your heart isn't behind it, you won't sustain the effort. The brain follows emotion. When you attach passion, urgency, and personal meaning to your actions, your nervous system mobilizes. You become unstoppable. You're no longer waiting for external circumstances, you're creating them. Massive action fueled by meaning transforms ordinary people into legends because it integrates your mind, body, and emotion into a single unstoppable force. So if you want to create extraordinary results in your life, don't just plan. Don't just dream. Don't just set goals. Move with massive, intelligent, emotionally charged action. Raise your standards, master your emotions, redefine your identity, and take relentless steps that align with your highest purpose. Because action is where dreams meet reality. Without it, potential remains untapped. With it, everything becomes possible. The world bows to those who do more faster and with meaning, because action compounded. With strategy and purpose is the ultimate power multiplier.